In this problem, notice that for this problem, we're going to notice that we have a straight line. So to write the equation of a line, we're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So remember, we need two things. One is the slope. We're going to use 2 points to find the slope. Our 2 points that we're going to use are 0, 14 and 1, 20. To calculate the slope, remember it's change of y's. So y sub 2 over y, or minus y sub 1, over the change of x's, which is x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So in other words, in our problem, it would be 20 minus 14 over 1 minus 0. So the slope of our equation is 20 minus 14, which is 6 over 1, or a slope of 6. Remember, that's your m. Now we need to find our y-intercept. If you look at your first point, that actually gives us our y-intercept. Our y-intercept would be b, and the reason is because x is 0. So putting this in terms of our equation, notice instead of x, it's t. Instead of y, it's d. So I'm going to write in terms of that. So it'd be y equals, or in this problem, d, equals our slope, which we calculated was 6, times x, which remember is t, and then plus b, which we figured out was 14. So the correct equation would be the letter C. In this problem, it says the length of a rectangle with area of 54 centimeters. The length is 9. We're trying to figure out what the perimeter of the rectangle is. So basically trying to understand the difference between area and perimeter. So we have a rectangle, which I'm going to go ahead and draw. Remember, the area of a rectangle is found by taking the length times the width. They already told us that the length is 9. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. We don't know what the width is, so I'm just going to let that be represented by W. So remember, the area was 54, and that equals our length, which is 9, times W. So if I simply divide both sides by 9 to undo my 9W, in other words, 9 times W, I end up with the width to have a measure of 6. Remember, that is 6 centimeters. Now notice that that is one of the answers they give. Be very careful with that. That's not the question it asks. It asks what is the perimeter. So remember, perimeter of a rectangle or of a figure is the distance around the figure. So we just figured out that this was 6. Now remember, in a rectangle, you have 2 widths that are the same and 2 lengths that are the same. So when I go around and add up all of the sides, which is really what perimeter is, the perimeter, we would have 2 times 9, because we have 2 lengths, plus 2 times our width, which would be 6, because that's the measure of our length, or of our width. So we have 18 plus 12. In other words, our perimeter is 30. So again, be careful with when you first get your first answer. They typically will have that over here, but remember, that's not our answer, because they ask us what the perimeter is, not just what the width is. In this problem, we're working off of our geometry skills. Notice the angle DCE is given to have a measure of 45 degrees. You'll notice in this figure that angle ACB is a vertical angle with angle DCE. So remember, vertical angles are always congruent. So therefore, we know the measure of angle ACB is 45. The question that it is asking is, what is the measure of angle BAC? So we are trying to find the measure of angle BAC. To find that, we notice that we have a triangle here in triangle BAC, and in a triangle, all the angles add up to be 180. So to find the missing angle, angle BAC, we're simply going to take 180 and subtract the sum of the angles that we know, which are 35 and 45, which is 80 degrees when we add those together. And we'll find out that the measure of angle BAC is 100 degrees. So the correct answer should be the letter B. For problem number 14, we'll notice that it said, our teacher said the number of hours listed was correct, but our central angles for our sectors, they are not correct. So that's important. Now the only one we have to figure out is what is the central angle measure for common core or common subjects. Notice that common core subjects are 4 hours. Now that's 4 hours out of our total day. And our total day has 4 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 more. In other words, 9 hours. Now that's not 4/9 out of our complete entire circle. So our circle, remember, is 360 degrees. So we're going to take 4/9 times 360 degrees. Now when you do that, you're going to end up with, and you can just do this kind of like this, where you have 4/9 times 360 over 1. You can take 9 goes into 360 40 times. So 4 times 40 is 160. And that would tell you how many degrees that this central angle should be. Notice they have it listed as 180, but it really should be 160, which is the letter H. For this question, we are trying to figure out how many large figurines did Cami sell for the month. Now it told us that she sold 70 total. She had 2 sizes, and the large figurines sold for $12, and the small figurines sold for $8 a piece. The amount of money she collected from the large figurines was equal to, that's important, the amount of money she sold for the small figurines. Now, there are several ways that you could do this problem. One is you could use one variable. So I'm going to let X equal the question that we're trying to figure out, which is how many large figurines that she sold. So I'm going to let X equal large. Now, if I'm sticking with one variable, I know that she sold 70 figurines in total of only 2 sizes. So they were small and large. So if X is the large, if I take 70 minus X, that would be the amount of small figurines that she sold. Now the next important part is it said that the amount of money she received in sales from the large figurines was equal to the amount of money she received with the small figurines. So what I can do is take the amount that she sold for the large figurines, which were $12 a piece. So the amount of money she made for large figurines was 12 times the number she sold, which remember we let be X. That's going to equal, because it said the money was equal for the large and small figurines. I have to take 8 times the small figurines, the amount we sold. And the reason why I had to multiply it by 8 was $8 was the price of each figurine. Now multiplying, I would simply distribute. So I'm going to have 8 times 70, which is going to give me 560. Don't forget to take 8 times negative X, which is a negative 8X. Now we're going to take 8X to the other side, which is a negative 8X. So I have to do the opposite, which would be to add the 8X. When I do that, now on the left-hand side of my equal sign, I have 20 X's equals 560. I'm solving for X, so I need to undo my times 20 by dividing by each side by 20. And 560 divided by 20 will give me 28. Now the question that we are answering is how many large figurines did Cami sell? And X was the amount of large figurines. So your correct answer is 28, which is the letter B.